So you just built yourself a new PC and you might be wondering, should I go ahead and overclock the CPU, the GPU, or maybe both? What would be the benefits in terms of improved performance, and would there be any downsides in terms of system instability and increased temperatures? Well, these are all questions that I'm going to be answering today in this video. I've got a newly built PC and I'm going to be overclocking the CPU and the GPU and seeing what happens. So in the system I've built today, we've got a Ryzen 7 9700X being cooled by a 360mm I/O. We've got 32 gigabytes of DDR5 and I've gone ahead and enabled the XMP profile, so it's running at 7200 megatransfers per second. And for the graphics card, I've got the RTX 5080 Aorus Master Ice. Now, a few things to say at the start. The first is that I don't normally overclock my own systems. I do, of course, enable the XMP or the Expo profile on the RAM, but I tend to leave it at that. So I'm not going to be an expert in doing this. If you are looking to do it, it might be worth checking out other people's videos to get the best settings. But I'm going to be doing a basic overclock and seeing is there any downsides, and run a whole load of benchmarks to see what happens in terms of improved performance. The other thing to say is that in doing this, there is potential for you to damage your system, so I'm not recommending you do this. This is just purely a video for informational purposes. So before we do any overclocking, we're going to want to take a look at our system with the stock settings. Like I say, the only thing I've done is enable our XMP profile. So our 9700X is currently idling at 41 degrees, and our RTX 5080 is idling at 29 degrees. At idle, our CPU is pulling in 29 watts and our GPU 25 watts. And you can see here we've got an 8-core CPU and all the cores are running around about 3.6 gigahertz. And the noise at idle from the system is 34 decibels. So the first thing I'm going to do is run a Cinebench R23 test, and this will stress our CPU but not our GPU, because I'm going to start off with CPU overclocking. So I'm going to start off with a CPU multi-core test, which will stress all 8 cores of our CPU. So we'll click start, and this will take about 10 minutes or so to complete. So we take a look at that. Already our CPU temperatures have increased to 53. As I said, it won't stress our GPU, so the temperatures haven't increased at all. And our CPU is now pulling in around about 87 watts. GPU power hasn't increased because, again, this isn't stressing our GPU. And if we take a look at our core clock, we're running around about 4.45 gigahertz. Okay, so that's our benchmark complete, and we've got a score of 19,493. We can see the maximum temperature our CPU went up during the test was 57 degrees. As I say, our GPU wasn't stressed, the maximum temperature was 30. In terms of the max power going to our CPU package, it's 87.85 watts. Our maximum CPU clock speed was 5.55 gigahertz, although as the test was running, it was 4.45 gigahertz that all cores were running at. In terms of noise, as the test was running, the average noise was 38 decibels, so that was only a 4 decibel increase over the idle noise. So I'm just going to clear the results briefly and we'll run a single core test. Okay, so that's the single core complete, and our score was 2,208. The maximum clock speed during that test was 5.55 gigahertz. And we can see our maximum CPU temperature was a little bit hotter than the multi-core test at 63 degrees. So I have done some other baseline benchmarks, but I'll be showing you these later on as comparison. So we're now ready to overclock our CPU, and to do this we're going to have to enter the BIOS. So what we're going to do, we'll close our programs down and we can go ahead and restart our PC. What we're going to do is keep pressing the delete key, and this will take us into the BIOS. So in the BIOS, we're going to click on the advanced mode, and the only thing that I've done so far is enable our XMP profile to get the RAM running at 7200 megatransfers per second. What we're going to do is click on the settings tab. We're going to click on AMD overclocking. I'm going to accept, and then I'm going to click on precision boost overdrive. It's currently set to auto, so I'm going to click on it and change it to advanced. In terms of the PBO limits, I'm going to change this to motherboard. I'm going to change to manual. I'm going to change this to by 10. CPU boost clocks override, I'm going to enable this, and we're going to go for enabled positive. And the maximum that we're allowed is 200 megahertz. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And this will increase our CPU boost clock by an extra 200 megahertz. Platform thermal throttle level, I'm going to set this at 95. So we'll click on manual and we'll type in 95. So that's the maximum temperature that our CPU will be allowed to go to. Obviously I could do further testing and might decide to bring this down a little bit. And then we're going to head over to the curve optimizer. I'm going to enable this. And we're going to go for all cores. We're going to change it to negative. And again, the value that you're going to be able to put in here depends on your CPU. I have done a little bit of testing beforehand, and I've got it to run nice and stable at -30. I haven't tried more than this. It may go more than this, but -30 I'm happy with. So all we need to do now is save our settings. So we'll click on Save and Exit. Save and Exit. It's going to show us all the things that we have changed. We'll click on Yes, and the PC will boot back into Windows. Okay, so we're back into Windows and the PC is at idle. And we can see our CPU and GPU temperatures are very similar to what we had without the Precision Boost Overdrive enabled. Our CPU package is currently pulling in about 31 watts, so not significantly different from what we had before. Clock speeds are again mostly fairly similar, around about 3.6 gigahertz, but we can notice that we've got a 200 megahertz bump on our maximum clock speeds. We can see it's going up to 5.75 gigahertz. And noise is very similar, it's only 2 decibels louder than without Precision Boost Overdrive enabled. So we'll go ahead and run a multi-core test. And if we take a look, there is a massive jump at our temperatures. Our temperatures have reached 95 degrees, which is our thermal throttling limit almost immediately. It looks like we've got most of our cores running round about 5.48, 5.49 gigahertz. But if we take a look at our CPU package power, it's pulling in up to 170 watts, which is round about double what we were pulling in before. So with about 34 seconds left in the Cinebench test, the system has completely locked up. I've lost control of the cursor, so I'm going to go ahead and reset things and try to run that again. So same thing again, this time after only just a minute, the system's completely locked up, so we're going to have to go back into the BIOS and reduce things down a little bit. And then I struggled to get the PC to boot up again. I needed to go ahead and clear the CMOS, and I went into the BIOS settings again. Instead of -30, I set -20 on the curve optimizer, leaving everything else the same. So -20 does look to be better. At this stage we were up at 96 degrees and we're hovering around about 89, 90, so temperatures are definitely better. In terms of power, CPU's pulling in 161 watts compared to 169 at -30. And we're running around about 5.24 rather than 5.475 gigahertz. So hopefully this will be more stable. So how did that improve our multi-core score? Well, it increased by 3,439 points, which was an increase of 17.6%. That 17.6% came at significant cost, with a 35-degree increase in temperature, an extra 22 decibels of noise, and an increase in CPU package power by 85.6%. So in terms of our single core test with Precision Boost Overdrive enabled, there was only a 16-point increase, which is less than 1%. This isn't a big surprise when our maximum CPU clock speed only increased by 65 megahertz and there was only an 8% increase in CPU package power. There was no significant difference to the CPU max temperature or the noise levels. So in terms of the other benchmarks, I ran Shadow of the Tomb Raider at 1080p high with DLSS turned off. PBO enabled, we have increased our average frame rate by 6%. Our maximum CPU temperature was actually 1 degree cooler. There was 4 decibels of extra noise, and our CPU package power increased by 29%. Using Puget Systems DaVinci Resolve benchmark, our overall score increased by 13%. Although that did come at a significant cost, our maximum CPU temperature was 19 degrees higher. We had 10 decibels extra noise, and our CPU package power increased by 69%. In Time Spy Extreme, our CPU score increased by 19%. Again, that came at significant cost, with our CPU maximum temperature increasing by 21 degrees, our CPU package power increasing by 54%, and we had 13 decibels of extra noise. I tried to run the Speedway benchmark on 2 different occasions. When it loaded up, the system crashed, and I needed to clear the CMOS to get the system to post again. Okay, so I've reset our BIOS settings, so the only thing I've enabled is our XMP profile. Precision Boost Overdrive has been disabled, and we come on to overclocking our GPU. To do this, I'm going to be using MSI Afterburner, and I've got Unigine Heaven running in the background. So we can see our current GPU core clock as well as our memory clock, and we've also got our current GPU temperature. So the first thing I'm going to do is increase our power limit, so we'll drag it all the way up to 125% and click on Apply. Next I'm going to increase our memory clock, so we'll bring it up by around about 500 megahertz and click on Apply. And what we're looking in the background for is any artifacting, any instability, and we can see that our clock speed up here has increased. So that looks fine. We'll drag it up by another 500 and click on Apply. So again, that looks stable, so we'll go for the final 500 and click on Apply. So you can see we've added 2000 megahertz to our GPU memory clock. So now we come on to the core clock, and I'm going to bring it up in steps of 50. And you can see our core clock is increasing as we do this. Okay, we'll try a bit more. Okay, we'll go up, try and go to 300. So that does seem okay. Let's try a little bit more. I think we're going to hit the limit fairly soon. There we go. So it's just crashed at 370 and the mouse is completely locked up now. Okay, so the Heaven benchmark has crashed, so I'm going to pull this back down. I'm not really going to push things an awful lot here. I think I'm probably happy with 300 on the core clock. So let's just apply that. And what we'll do is we'll go and run some benchmarks. So taking a look at the benchmarks, in Shadow of the Tomb Raider, our average frame rate improved by 2.2%. And our maximum GPU temperature was only 1 degree hotter with no extra noise. And our GPU power consumption increased by 10%. Puget Systems DaVinci Resolve benchmark, our overall score increased by only 1.3%. Although this is to be expected as I was using the free version of DaVinci Resolve, which really doesn't utilize the graphics card. In TimeSpy Extreme, our GPU score increased by 8.7%, although this did come at the cost of increased GPU power draw by 12.4% up to 411 watts. I tried running the Speedway benchmark on 2 different occasions, and each time the PC crashed and I needed to restart the PC to get it running again. So that was a busy day of benchmarking, but some really useful results. Using Precision Boost Overdrive to overclock your CPU in the BIOS was really straightforward to do, and it yielded some really impressive results in terms of our core clocks. In fact, actually been able to increase our multi-core clock by 1 gigahertz. And that did yield significant improvements under multi-core workloads, somewhere between about 6 and 19%. In single core workloads, there wasn't really any benefit at all, but that is to be expected with Precision Boost Overdrive. So up to 19% improvement sounds really impressive just by changing some settings in the BIOS, but it came at significant cost. So our noise levels increased by up to 22 decibels, which is absolutely massive. This PC sounded like a plane trying to take off on the desk beside me and was absolutely unbearable to sit beside during some of those stress tests. In terms of temperatures, these increased by a whopping 35 degrees, which is again absolutely massive. It's not a small increase. And the other really significant thing was the power our CPU was consuming. It was consuming an additional 85%. So you just have to weigh up the advantages and disadvantages. For me, the disadvantages really outweigh the advantages. What you're gaining in a little bit improved performance, you're really outweighing in terms of increased temperatures, increased noise, and increased power draw. And we haven't even factored in the system instability. The PC crashed a number of times and it wouldn't power back on again. I had to actually clear the CMOS to get things up and running again. So if you are a new PC builder, this is definitely not what you want to be doing. Another option would be to dial things back a little bit, not go for such extreme numbers as what I did, and hopefully then you'd find maybe a better balance between the advantages and disadvantages and have a slightly more stable system. GPU numbers were a little bit more favorable. We had up to 8.7% improvement. Noise levels only increased by up to 3 decibels, and the power draw increased by most up to 12.4%. So up to an 8.7% improvement is absolutely massive, and it seemed to be the more graphics intense benchmarks that we got the more benefit in, and that would be as you would expect. Now, I was all set to recommend this until we tried to run the last benchmark, which was the Speedway benchmark, and it crashed on 2 different occasions. So you could, of course, dial back the overclock a little bit and try and get it a bit more stable, but it's going to be harder to determine that because the system was completely stable in everything apart from that Speedway benchmark. So you're going to have to decide, is overclocking really worth it for you? Those small gains that you're going to get in terms of improvement versus system instability. With the GPU overclocking, definitely that seems more productive than the CPU overclocking in terms of weighing up the advantages and the disadvantages. But for me, it's not going to be something that I'm going to be indulging in. I'm going to be turning on the Expo or XMP profile on my RAM, and I'm going to be leaving my CPU and GPU at stock. Because for me, the most important thing is a stable, reliable system that's not going to crash on me when I'm doing an important task, and a PC that runs cool and quiet. You may well be different, and those marginal gains that you're going to get, you may be happy with some of the downsides and be prepared to put the time in to fine-tune things to get things running stable. So hopefully you have found this video useful. If you have, please hit the thumbs up button, and if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, please hit the subscribe button as well. Thanks for watching.